Good morning, Aparna ma'am.
Good morning.
Good morning,
Good
Aparna ma'am.
morning. Good morning.
I believe Dheeraj sir also joins. Sukhman, let's start with the session. Yeah.
Sure. All right. Good morning, everyone. As we begin with today's session, let us reflect on this truth that the crisis is not in resources, but in how we manage them. It is this perspective that shapes our discussions ahead. On behalf of the entire SETU team and the Little Scholars fraternity, we warmly welcome all the participating schools, our respected mentors, our eminent resource persons, and our friends here with us. This is Sukhman Singh Sidhu, joined by Snehi Agarwal, together representing the Student Council of SETU 2025, and we are also joined by Shreyas from the ICT team. And we shall guide you through the proceedings of this session.
We are grateful to have all of you with us, and we extend our heartfelt acknowledgement to the visionary founder of SETU, Mr. Pankaj Bhalla, our esteemed principal ma'am, Mrs. Shikha Gautam, and our source of unwavering guidance, Ms. Manjula Arora, along with our devoted ICT mentor, Mr. Manish Sharma, whose steady guidance continues to shape this initiative.
SETU stands for Social Enterprises Towards Unified Understanding and Undertaking. Each year, students of Little Scholars, along with peers from neighboring schools, take up this endeavor to address critical global issues linked to the SDGs. SETU has always sought to encourage students to act locally while thinking globally, creating a collaborative platform for dialogue and action.
The Little Scholars Social Service Group has consistently strived to spread awareness on pressing issues. Over the years, SETU has explored diverse themes. Swachh Bharat in 2015, Utopia in 2016, Carbon Footprint in 2017, Virtues in 2018, Clear Water Revival in 2019, Who Makes the City in 2020, Streets for Me in 2021, Sustainable Consumption and Production 2022, Sustainable Aqua 2023, and Climate Change and Biodiversity last year. Each year, these efforts have been steps towards shaping informed, responsible citizens.
So, this year's theme is Sustainable Development, Balancing Economic Growth with Environmental Protection. It asks us to reflect on how far we can progress without tipping the balance of the planet itself. In our earlier workshops, participants were introduced to the theme of sustainable development and the specific tasks for each category. Today's workshop brings all categories together under one forum to hear from distinguished voices whose perspectives will help refine and strengthen the work that students have already begun. For those who may wish to revisit them, the recordings of the previous two online workshops have been made available on our school's YouTube channel.
Each of our resource person brings with them years of dedication and experience in their respective fields. Their insights today are not only meant to inform, but also to inspire participants to think critically, act responsibly, and translate ideas into meaningful outcomes.
All right.
So now we are honored to first invite Miss Aparna Rajgopal, lawyer by education and now a self-taught farmer and passionate nature advocate. She is the founder of Bijome Farm, an institution dedicated to sustainable organic farming, celebrating regional food traditions, restoring the ancient relationship between animals and farmers, and promoting soil and water conservation. We look forward to hearing her valuable perspectives. Over to you, ma'am.
First of all, thank you so much for inviting me to this platform. I am really honored to be with you all. And it's just very, very heartening and very, very amazing to see how your school and the system is creating future leaders, creating thinkers, creating people who care about the environment. It's the need of the hour, we all know. Today, we are sitting on a precipice, literally. You can see with this latest monsoon, you can see the devastation around us. We all know climate change is real. It's not a figment of anybody's imagination. We know that by as we speak, acres of forests are getting denuded, wildlife is disappearing. There is a huge imbalance between species, and therefore there is a lot of conflict amongst us, and in urban and rural spaces. We can also see how much our food is polluted, how much our water bodies are polluted, the air is polluted. I think there is nothing that needs to be said about what is already happening, because all of us already know what we are standing on. And therefore, this discussion has become very important. And the fact that youngsters like you are every year participating and learning this is very heartening, because you are our future leaders. And I'm delightful and I'm so happy to be here. So let me introduce myself. I'll take 5 minutes. I'm Aparna Rajagopal. I trained to be a lawyer. And even in law school, I always wanted to do environmental law, environmental education. But the times I lived in when I was young, in 1990s, the conversations were there, but not in courtrooms as much as they were outside, and there was lesser for us to do in courtrooms. I realized that there's so many people didn't know anything about this. There was no knowledge. So unless there was knowledge, there was no need. Nothing could happen in the courts. So slowly, I started kind of working with environmental organizations. I started rescuing animals. I did a whole lot of things actually. One day I called up. Uh, I felt there was no education. I felt the police and all the enforcement authorities did not know anything about this. So before we do anything, we have many many laws, but how do we bring it? How do we make it happen? How do we make people know what the laws are? How do we make the enforcement authorities more sensitive? That was my thought. I must have been about 22, 23. And I was thinking, if everybody is not sensitive about this, how do we implement the law as a lawyer at that time? So one day I called up uh, Kiran Bedi, who was then she was heading the Jaronda Kalanme. She was heading the National Police Training Academy. And I just said, I'm a young lawyer and I'm very interested in teaching the police environmental law. And is it possible for me to come? And I didn't know. I actually, now when I think about it, I don't know what I was thinking. I just picked up the phone one morning, got a number from somewhere. And will you believe it? She actually sent me a car. She was delighted that I'm going to come. And she put 400 police officers to train under me for a day. And I got the shock of my life because I never expected that kind of response. And so I gathered with me some other people who are experts in wildlife law, some activists from the ground, and a group of us landed up at Jarunda Kalan. And we were all in our early 20s. And we taught 400 policemen. And we didn't know the impact of what we did. We did it, we had lunch there, and we came back, and we were very happy that, oh, we've done something. But the impact of that lasted one whole year. All the 400 policemen who went to various police stations started calling all of us saying, "We have rescued a horse. What do we do? We have seen this. What do we do? We have helped a chicken. What do we do?" So that is the power of action. It taught me very early that we should not wait. We should do something. And something we do will snowball. We don't know how, but it will happen. So it was very, very heartening for me at that age, at 23, to know that somebody like me who was completely insignificant could just pick up the phone one day and make something happen. So that was my first learning. And then I went and did a lot of odd things for a few years because I didn't know how I should do this further, until I rescued a horse one day. One of my rescues. I rescued it from a shelter. Her name was Ganga, and I wanted to keep her. I wanted to board her myself. So my husband and I, we found some land near the Yamuna, and we thought, let's board her, because if we give her to somebody else, they may not take care of her very well. And there, that man said, "I have more land." I was wondering, what will I do with it? I said, okay, let's try farming for 1 year. Everybody laughed at me because I'm from Chennai. This is UP. They said, You don't even know the language. How are you going to farm?" Even I didn't know how I'm going to farm. I said, let's try. It looks interesting. And actually, it's not like I was growing a lot of food in my house, but I just decided to, take the chance, just like I did that time when I did the training. And we leased this land of 15 bigas. And this was by the Yamuna. And the horse's name, we named her Ganga. So I always joke saying, Bijom, or our project, started with Ganga by the Yamuna, right? And one horse became four, and then there were cows came along, and I started studying just like a student because I didn't know anything about farming. I was not from a farming background, and so I just picked up books. Heard podcasts. I heard YouTube videos. I implemented everything on the farm, whatever I learned. And slowly a group began to form around me, some out of curiosity, some because they were interested, some because they just joined me for employment. Whatever it was, there were a group of people, and all of them a little bit thought I was crazy, probably because I was saying things like, we won't use pesticides. And they were all from chemical farming backgrounds, and they said, what do you mean you won't use pesticides? Kuch nahi ugega, aap nahi kar paoge. You could hear these voices all the time behind me. But people would actually put chairs there and have chai and watch me, thinking, oh, this lady is going to fail. Even I wasn't sure if I'll succeed. It was not I just was determined. I said, no, I am going to try this. Because if so many books are saying natural farming, organic farming, all this kind of farming is possible, then I must do it. So I bought a lot of books, markers, highlighters and pens. I became a student all over again. And I have now books and books of notes on farming, because I realized I needed to know as much or more than the farmers on the ground. Otherwise, how will I lead them? How will I talk to them? How will I work with them if I don't know anything, right? So I studied a lot, and that's how I got all my knowledge on farming. And whatever I learned, I would go to the field the next day and implement it. Right. So it was literally every single day of working like that. This started in 2014, August. And today we are 11 years into Bijom. And as of today, I'm just making it short because otherwise you'll get tired of hearing my voice. As of today, we grow about 200 crops. We have 400 animals. We grow on 40 acres of land. So that's how it started. It started as a dream. It started as some kind of a mad idea, but some madness is required. You need to follow your dreams. So one of the biggest beginnings for a person is to be informed. If you want to understand more about sustainability, if you want to understand more about environment conservation, and if you want to understand with how economics and environment conservation can be married or can be brought together instead of being seen as two opposite ends, then we need to be on the ground. We need to study. We need to work to be able to understand and articulate this. Right. So, sorry. Yeah. Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am, you're
Yeah.
audible.
Yes,
Yeah,
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
sorry. Yeah, so that's how it started. So today we have multiple projects within the farm. This all grew organically. And I realized, first of all, there are many, many types of farming. There is biodynamic farming, there's permaculture, there is natural farming, there is zero budget natural farming. Then there are so many kinds of farming. There's Subhash Palekar, hai, Namalwar in Tamil Nadu, Bhaskar Save, Masanobu Fukuoka, Bill Mollison. I can't tell you the number of people who are great people in farming who have done various ways. There is no way that is right or wrong. We have to adapt that way to the environment we are in. तो जहाँ मैं हूँ वहाँ के मिट्टी वहाँ के हवा everything had to be accommodated, and I had to learn the language. I'm talking in Hindi nowadays to farmers. It's because I learned Hindi on the go. My mother tongue is Tamil, and now I'm able to talk to various kinds of farmers in Hindi. That makes a lot of difference. So now we have a cattle conservation center. We have Gir, Sahiwal, Tharparkar, Red Sindhi, Kankrej, Rathi, Malnad Gidda, Kangayam, Bechur, Haryani, a lot of breeds of native cattle that are going extinct. We also have native breeds of goats. We have some native breeds of horses. So you should know that biodiversity on the planet, that is one of the pillars of conservation. We must sustain and we must protect all biodiversity, because as a people on the planet, we are meant to be diverse. That is why I always say no one thumbprint is the same. There is a reason for that. The reason is because we were never meant to be same. We were meant to be different. And even on the field, we have found if we plant diversity, the immunity becomes higher. If we plant diversity, production becomes higher. If we plant diversity, one helps the other. So metaphorically also, it's very important that all species on the planet are respected, protected, right? That is one of the first pillars of environment sustainability. The second pillar is soil building. Without soil, she's the mother. Without the mother, there is no baby. If you don't have healthy soils, you don't have healthy crops. So we've worked a lot on soil building. It's part of our core work. And we've realized if we continue working on soil, the crops automatically happen. So there is diversity, there is soil building, then there's water management. We cannot and must not think that the resources on the planet are there forever for us to use. It is there for a purpose. It is there for a shelf life that has to be used sustainably. So everyone thinks we have a lot of water in our area. Why should we conserve? But there will be a time tomorrow in 20 years where you will need to conserve. So it's better you do it in advance. That's why even though our area where we farm is flushed with water, we still do all kinds of water conservation on it. We plant trees that pull up water. We do grey water harvesting. We do rainwater harvesting. We do, and even the way we water our fields is very, what do you call that? What do you call, thoughtful. And the fourth thing is seed saving. There aren't enough organic seeds for farmers to sow, so we seed save a lot. And these are all these things are called climate resilient agriculture. It's a smart way. And when you talk about environment sustainability and when you talk about economics versus environment, these are the pillars for economics, to bring in economics in environment sustainability. If you follow these principles, then automatically you're marrying economics with environment sustainability. Your production goes up, and we also do value addition, packaging. We create channels for sales directly to the customer so that the farmer can earn more. So many of these pillars that we use on the farm is all about marrying environment sustainability with economics. They go hand in hand. If you keep using the environment and not giving back to the environment, then you will not have economic stability. Because at some point, all our resources, whatever we use, whether it is steel, whether it is coal, whether it's wood, whether it is fiber, everything is coming from the land. Everything goes back to the land. So what goes back to the land is the effluents that we put into the water, is the chemicals we put into the soil. So we are taking good things from the land and giving back bad things to the land, which is what is causing the imbalance. So this kind of farming, where we've created a model at Bijom, where we grow food, clean food, we also creating a market, we're also raising awareness by having a lot of workshops, interacting with a lot of people, like I'm doing now with you. We go to farmers markets. We have a WhatsApp. Youngsters want to see Instagram, and we are all people like me are learning how to do reels, how to make people understand good content. How to bring in education into the that kind of spectrum, so that youngsters also are able to understand and see. We also build a lot of compassion on the farm. I feel all this conversation, the foundation is empathy. You have to have empathy. You have to be kinder. We have to think for others. We have to think for the future generations. We have to think for other species. We have to use everything with some love for the planet. If you don't have empathy for others and love for the planet, I think all this conversation cannot happen. Right? So I think we do something called compassion workshops. We do whatever it takes. We do everything it takes to bring to the people animal stories from our farm. It really moves people. We have animals like donkeys on the farm, and we've had a pig, who they're all superstars on our farm. We have a lot of funny animal stories. People don't associate many animals with so much emotion. All our animals on the farm are superstars. They have so much emotion and they have so many lovely stories. And when we tell these stories to people, when we introduce our animals to people, then people are actually shocked and they never forget. And children go back asking their parents, can you tell us this story again? Can you tell us this story again? And that's how this narrative gets bigger and bigger. So there are so many ways to shape the story of environment sustainability. And economics will come along first with sensitization, empathy, action. I think if we don't do these three together, this conversation cannot be taken forward. And economics is very, very important. We have a lovely project. I'll give you an example. We have a lovely project called Dung Ho on the farm. We have 200 cattle. We have 120 cows. We don't sell milk. People are shocked. They're like, you have cows and you don't sell milk? Why? Because we found the dairy industry to be very cruel, very unsustainable. And so we decided, what if not milk? How do we build empathy? If we just tell people be kind, will they be kind? No. If we bring in some economics, then people will think, oh, we can make money like this, so we won't sell dairy. So, what is our alternative to dairy? Our alternative to dairy is dung, because dung is the other free resource that is available from the cow or the cattle. Dung is available 365 days, 24/7. Unlike milk, it is not perishable and it has a lot of uses. We all know that. We can grow food with it, we can do fuel with it, we can do construction with it. In the olden days, this is why they worship dung, they worship the cow, they worship the bull, because the entire agrarian system worked with the cow and the bull at the center. And what if we bring back the use of cow dung? So that's how Dung Ho was born. And we wanted to show farmers, you can protect the animal, you can be nicer to the animal if you start making things with dung and sell it. So we had to bring in economics into environment, right? So we started making dung logs. And imagine the amount of wood that is cut across India for cremation, for bonfires, for fuel. So imagine if all that can be converted into a micro project where we make dung logs and sell it, right? And this is a great livelihood project for all villagers. Dung is available for free in all villages, right? And this dung log machine is not very expensive. If every Anganwadi can put a dung log machine, it creates livelihood for the farmers within the village. And this is an ongoing business, it will never stop. Yeah, am I right? So that's why the dung logs, IIT Delhi did a wonderful study with us, and they came to the conclusion that the dung logs are much better than wooden logs. So all this made our project even more, bolstered. Then we also make dung pots. All the plastic covers that are used in nurseries to grow plants, now we grow our saplings in dung pots. Dung pots is the machine is also very nice. All these machines were not made by scientists. They were made by very intelligent farmers who did jugaad and made those machines. They are beautiful machines. They are now available in the market. And with these machines, now we make dung pots in which we grow saplings, right? And dung logs and dung pots, then we make dhoop. We make two kinds of dhoop. One is a dhoop for God, in which we put havan samagri and all that. And the other is go machar. It is a machar repellent, which is amazing because it is that has made sure that so many of these chemical products in the market we can probably counter a little bit, having healthier options. And all this is creating an economy. All this is creating a base. All this is creating a parallel income for farmers who are battered by climate change. If they only rely on their crops and they don't do other livelihoods, then they cannot survive. That is how farmer suicides happen. So, what if we created parallel income for farmers? What if we created alternate livelihoods? So, this is why we have this Dungho project. This project is beautiful. We also make vermicompost, we make a lot of potting manure, we make so many things. All of this can become micro businesses. On our farm, we also teach mushroom cultivation, ethical beekeeping. We are just starting a weaving unit, we have a pottery unit, a carpentry unit. So, rural livelihoods have to be heroed. We should not allow mechanization to come in so much that people lose their jobs. If machines keep coming in, people will keep losing their jobs because machines will do the jobs which people do. While machines are efficient, machines also consume diesel. Machines also are unsustainable in its own way. So we should only have machines where absolutely required, and encourage people to to continue their rural livelihoods. So these are all the ways in which our narrative is being built on the farm. And we do these farmers trainings, we teach natural farming, we bring in schools, colleges. And there's also an urban rural divide. If you want to marry economics with environment, you also need to create a demand and supply situation. If you want to grow more millets, you have to ask for more millets. Who will ask for more millets? The urban people. For that, the urban people have to know where their food is coming from. So they have to come to the villages. They have to meet a farmer. They have to know the challenges of how food is grown. If there is more demand for millets, more millets will be grown. If more millets are grown, the prices will come down. Because one of the complaints about organic farming is organic food is expensive. It is expensive because it's boutique. What if it became mainstream? If more and more millets are grown, if it becomes common to grow millets, then the rates will automatically become uh, good. So I think we all have to work collectively, the urban people, the rural people, children, adults, animals. And we have to there has to be integration. We cannot work without integration. When I say integration, I also mean when we do regenerative sustainable agriculture farming, we integrate the land, the soil, the water, the animals, the people, everybody. All of us have to come together, be supportive of each other. All of us have to sustain each other. Only then can this dream of a cleaner, kinder, and happier world come, where we can bring back our environment to where it was. The AQI can improve, water bodies can become cleaner, food can be grown better, and economy can improve. The people's livelihoods have to improve. So I think it's a very big web. And I could talk all day about it, but I don't want to take more time. So, just to give you a jhalak, I just wanted to tell you that we have to marry. There is no question of asking, is environment better or economy? You can't fry money and eat it. We need food, right? So money, economics and environment have to go together, because all our resources are in the soil, are in the land, are in nature, and we need the money also to live. So we have to find the best ways to make both happen. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, ma'am, for sharing those valuable insights and for reminding us how deeply our choices of cultivation and consumption are tied to sustainability. These insights will for sure serve as a valuable guide for the students as they carry forward their work. And personally, it was truly inspiring to hear how your journey began and how it continues to shape such meaningful work. And listening to how you started and what you have built since is rather a reminder that conviction and persistence can change the very ground we stand on. So, if any student has any questions, please go ahead either by raising your hands or via the chat box. Any questions, anybody?
If you want to know more about us, you can go to our website, our Insta, our Facebook. Please do plan a visit if you can. Meanwhile, if anybody has questions, I'm happy to answer. Is GST cutting a valid point from the government? See, I think yes, GST cutting is very valid. It's very important. It will help. I feel it will help regulate bring down prices of a lot of things. It will help regulate the economy more. But these are all larger market forces. And I think that is not particularly relevant. I mean, what happens is I don't think we can this our narrative is going to help that. Our narrative is about land. Our narrative is what can we do right at the ground. But yes, all this does impact prices. So we all end up paying a lot of GST, especially in the farming world. When you have a lot of GST, it really impacts farmers a lot. And this actually makes people avoid paying it, which is what I have noticed. So I'm very happy they've brought it down. But all this will automatically correct itself if if our at the ground are growing, are selling, are value adding, the entire channel becomes much better too. So it also has to that also has to happen. I hope more production units are made. I forgot to say one thing. When you spoke about GST, when you talk about business in farming or in the land, why it's important is if Hapur is a sugarcane belt, if Hapur is a potato belt, then we need more potato industries, sugarcane industries there. Sugarcane industries meaning not just for jaggery. With sugarcane waste, we can make crockery and cutlery. I'm very interested in such projects because they automatically address waste, right? So that is what I meant. I said environment and economy can be married if we create industries around the waste. If we create industries, if we give subsidies for such things, if we cut GST for those things, if we cut, so it will encourage people to move into such businesses also to make the best out of waste projects. You should please go in and see sugarcane waste ka cutlery and crockery being made. It's called EcoWare. It's a fantastic project. So I'm all for lesser GST for the right things, subsidies for the right things, promoting industries for the right things, and promoting more smaller industries, cottage industries in rural areas so that people don't migrate from the village to the city for jobs. We need more farmers. We need farmers to remain in the villages. They should not leave. So I think that is the goal. The goal is everybody needs money, but where are you creating the economy? The economy should not be in the city, it should be in the village so that people don't leave. So, yes, GST is a very important subject, but I wish other things will also happen along with it. Yeah.
That's great. Any more questions?
Yeah. Sustainable practices. Just 1 second. Sustainable practices somehow move away from the glitz and glamour, making the upcoming move towards what should the government be doing to promote such. Okay, if I've understood your question right, you're saying a lot of young people want to move to these kind of things in villages. How the government can help for such things? Is that what you're saying? If that is your question, then yes, a lot of people, urban people now have realized this and they want to move to the villages to do, which is great. But the I think farming is a skill. Uh, I've learned farming theoretically, yes. But can we squat in the field for 8 hours and weed? We can't because we just don't have the fitness to do so. How does that come? That comes from generations of working in the fields. You have to live with the land to know farming. So, which is why I feel that essentially the farmers should not leave the land. But yes, when urban people move in, we can help because our education enables us to create better supply channels, better businesses, small agencies, create cooperatives, FPOs, whatever it takes to move the produce to sale. A lot of farmers are facing problems like no cold stores, perishable products that are just being sold at rock bottom prices because they don't know how to sell. You know, perishable products just being wasted, food grains being wasted, no value addition. Then you need entrepreneurship in farming. If you don't have entrepreneurship farming in farming, you can't bring sustainability into it. And I'm talking about farming because sustainability begins there. It then reaches the city. So at every stage, you need public participation, you need urban participation, you need people from the city to know about the village, to start farms in the village, to interact with farmers and create cooperatives in the village. Every bit counts, even self-help groups, and craft for the women. Women are a huge bulk force in the village, and trust me, they are the backbone of agriculture. Without them, they nothing will happen. So they don't have a parallel income. It'll be lovely if a more parallel income was given to them so that the families can run and people won't leave the village. So yes, that is the narrative. Why is GST important? Okay, GST is important because it's a cost on everything everybody buys. Remember, if a farmer is not growing arhar dal, he's also buying arhar dal from the market at the same rate as you. So therefore, everything we buy in the market has a GST. GST becomes an additional cost if you're already paying tax. And so if we keep GST low for these things, more people will remain in farming, more people will do these kind of works. So I think the government should have a better, I'm glad they brought it down for some things because it will have an impact for sure. Otherwise, we are paying a lot of tax, and people get very overwhelmed with the for the amount they earn. They feel they are paying too much. So maybe that's why it's very good it's come down. Yeah. And what else? What kind of sustainable projects can we introduce in villages? Super question. I think villages are very naturally gifted. We are not going to save them. Trust me, they are saving us. That's the first thing I want to tell you. This is not some kind of patronizing thing saying, oh, we'll all go save the villages. We are educated. What is education itself is a big question. Does it mean that when you have a few degrees and if you can read and write, you're educated? Not at all. I think education is it's in layers. Some of the most educated people are our farmers. Their abilities are their basic life skills. The farming communities have the craft, the skills, the folk songs. Remember, all your art, your craft, your folk songs, everything comes from the villages, right? All that you will wear comes from the villages. Your clothes, your furniture, so there's no point in us having degrees if we can't have any of the basics right. Right. So actually, they're a very educated population. So I feel what we need to give there is enterprise. That's what they don't have. They don't have opportunities. They don't have the opportunities to sell. So we need to create micro livelihoods in villages. We need to create work with talents they already have. They have many talents: potters, blacksmiths, carpenters, weavers. That apart, handwork, Kantha, Madhubani, everything comes from the village. So how and weavers, hand loom. These are all because we brought in mechanized units. These are all dying crafts. So I think the most important thing is to create a value addition of produce at the farms so that more and more good produce can reach people and the farmer gets the maximum profit. If there are more middlemen, then there is less money for farmers. If there are less middlemen, then there is more money for farmers. So, how can farmers directly earn? That is probably the biggest conversation. That apart, how to create supply chains? How can we encourage farmers to grow much more diversity in the fields around NCR, for instance, or wherever you around your own town? And how can we buy local produce? How can we make produce or hero produce that is local, seasonal, and clean? How can we have our own family farmers so that we support farming directly? There's so many conversations like this. And also, how can we help them grow things that are more in demand nowadays? So there are so many smarter ways to grow, so many smarter ways to value add, so many smarter ways to create supply chain, so many smarter cooperatives we can make where they can earn together. So we can create a dung ho project, we can create a value addition. When I say value addition, what do I mean? If you're growing ganna, why would you sell it as ganna? You should sell it as good. If you should sell it as maybe a gajak, you should maybe sell it as some kind of jaggery product which will give you much more. So if they sold it as ganna, they'll get a lot less. If they sold it as gajak, they'll get a lot more. But for that, you need a small cooperative who'll do it. This will also, so micro businesses are very, very important. I think these are pickles, preserves, papads. We have so many sterling projects across India. We have so many sterling projects across India already demonstrating this. So if you go on the net and look, find these projects, we can emulate them. All of us are learning from each other in these ways. When I look up these projects and I'm in wonderment at some of those projects, they've done such good work. So yeah. Anything else? Ma'am, in villages, I've seen and also heard the trash carrying truck rarely comes, but still in villages too, plastic waste. So this is a great question. In our own farm, we have a composting unit. So we compost our farm waste. But plastic, we take the effort of going to a common dump, which is a few kilometers away to dump it. And it's picked up from there. But you're right, this is another great project to do where you can work with local panchayats, local jillas to make sure there are plastic recycling zones in every place. I wish, yes, all these would become projects. It's really heartening. This question is very, very valid and very important. Yeah. How can we earn their trust and make them think sustainable? Why would they trust us? Very good. Yes, why would they trust us? They looked at me also with enormous suspicion, saying, what is the agenda? So it takes time. Trust is not something you can buy. Trust is not something you have to earn it. So it has taken us 10 years of a lot of, we do, for instance, to earn their trust first, we are doing for the last 8 years bi-weekly free OPD for the people around. For we do tuitions for their children. You have to not only work for the economics, you also have to do welfare. We also, over a period over many years, we have created a local economy for our with using our farm. But during harvest, during sowing, when we need extra people, they all come in from the village, right? And when we have a festival on the farm, then they all come in and work with us. When we have a festival on the farm or any event, the local potter comes, the local mehndi wali comes. So we've created a community around us. That is over a period, they will know you better, you grow with them, and then they begin to trust you. They come to you with their joys and sorrows. We go to them with our joys and sorrows. When we have a problem, we just shout for them and they all arrive. When they have a problem, we show up. So this is something that is organic. Building community is one of the greatest joys. It is also very fulfilling because we've lost it in the city a bit. In the village, it's very present. They want to know everything about you, and it's not because they are nosy. They love hearing about your life. So it's lovely to interact with them. It's lovely to let them know you need this, and they come to you when they need something. Community grows. That is how slowly we build the trust. Trust is built gradually, and of course, yes, when we create an economy in the farm, in the village that we are attached to, then their trust in us grows. They're grateful. We are grateful. So it's a process, and it's worth it. It's totally worthwhile. How can urban and
Ma'am,
rural?
every word you said is truly inspiring,
Okay.
and your journey is so heartfelt that we all are inspired by it. But now I would request that the questions in the chat, if you are
Yeah,
okay with it, you can answer in the chat
I will
only.
answer on the chat for sure. Yeah,
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am.
yeah.
So let's continue ahead.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Mm.
Thank you so
Yeah,
much,
thank
ma'am.
you, ma'am. So we now have the privilege of welcoming Mr. Dheeraj Reddy. He is an architect and natural builder whose practice is rooted in vernacular and indigenous knowledge systems. By thoughtfully bridging traditional building methods with contemporary sustainable design, he has revived ecological wisdom and made it relevant for today. We look forward to his reflections on the topic, sir. Over to you. Sir, are you there?
Yeah, sorry. I had a trouble connecting. Am I audible? Hello.
Slightly less audible, I guess.
Is it any better now?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So, yeah, sorry, I'm in a remote location and the access to anything is a
Well,
little difficult. Uh, hey, namaste, everyone. Uh, since I learned Aparnaji is from Tamil Nadu, Vanakkam Aparnaji, and Sat Sri Akal to everyone out there. It's really lovely, like rightly mentioned by Aparnaji. That's beautiful diversity we have got here. And I'm really happy to see these two smiling faces as of now, only two of you. You are reacting to everything Aparnaji has been saying, with your expressions, and I could see that you're really taking it in. So it's amazing how mature you have all, you are in a way, and also innocent in a way, taking all of this beautiful learnings from such great people. And I thank each and every one of you for having me here. I would say especially Saurabh ji for making me join this beautiful conversation here. And yeah, uh, well, I mean I'll go through the same format like Aparna ji did. A little of my introduction and a little of a journey of how I've come here, and yeah, and few things that I've seen in Uttarakhand, beautiful things I've seen in Uttarakhand, the great, amazing villages. Aparna has almost mentioned everything, and but yeah, a few little more stories to add to it. Yeah, so I'll start here. So I was so just to make you more comfortable, I'll start with my college journey. That's where it all had begun. Uh, although I didn't have the privilege of hanging around with Saurabh ji for more time at SPA Bhopal, but I'm glad we are connecting back, and we're doing these together. And yeah, it all started in the college. I was from a small town in Telangana, going to Bhopal, studying in the National Institute, where yeah, the culture, although I mean Bhopal is still grounded that sense. It's more like a town back in those days when I started there, and it felt really welcoming. There was rain, there were beautiful green fields around, and the campus had so much of trees. So certainly nature made me comfortable. Coming from a place, from a town far away. Well, and especially in the college when I was there, we had these Rotary clubs. I'm sure some of you, I mean, are also part of such clubs in your school in your own way. And there, I had a great exposure to working with some of the kids in the local slums, and to meet them, to get them together, we would go visit their houses, call them. So that's when I would observe, as an studying someone studying architecture, I would see that, oh wow, these houses, although tiny, have their own small niches. The streets are shared, people are sitting around. It's only in the later part that I realize, okay, these people they have lived in their villages and have come here. So all of this sense of designing community spaces, and taking care of each other, sharing things, it all comes from the villages, the culture of the villages. So it was only later that I realized, okay, the people in the slums are originally, beautiful people coming from beautiful villages. And that's why you see that uh, amazing coexistence, even in such tiny spaces. So there's I mean, there again, the learning from the biodiversity of humans. So even in a setting like a city or a town you live in, you will actually find a lot of people that you can interact and learn stories. Like Aparna ji rightly said, you can also turn into a villager by inquiring and questioning more. Asking other people's stories, people who live next to you, people who are working with you, people who serve you, all that. Yeah. So moving on, yeah, so I had a great opportunity to stop by and volunteer at an amazing. Sorry, I might be not so audible now. Okay, I I was working. I interned, rather I volunteered at a place called Hunashala. I was before that this place in Bhuj, Gujarat, and they do amazing work in the front of social architecture, like post-disaster rehabilitation. So they basically equip uh, people who have lost their homes and help them out to build their homes back and stand up and stand tall. So at Hunashala, I was this young college guy and bothering everyone, asking too many questions. Not there to learn, but only to you know uh, throw in ideas saying you can do this and that, while not really realizing those people have been so humble. They're being empathetic and listening to me. So that's a great tool, if I can share that in here, that listening with patience will take you quite far. They will connect you with a lot of people. So yeah, so while at Hunashala, I realized, wow, I mean, so in architecture, it's not just building fancy big buildings or all that you see when you think of architecture, but it is also empowering humans in their lowest times, to help them out, to actually empower them and get back their confidence of leading the life again the way it was. So these guys were actually working with owner builders. That was a new term for me, owner builders. Okay, so they were basically making. There's also a great book called Barefoot Architecture. It's a book every school should have in their library. So what they were doing was, they were not designing as, oh, I'm an architect, I'll design it for him. He should not bother me. Let him just tell whatever he needs. I'll design. That was not the approach. Here it was. Here it was participatory design. So the owners or the people who have lost their homes, they were asked to actually draw simple drawings. Later they would improvise on them, but simple drawings of what they need and how. So going back to the slum story I mentioned before, while I was working at the Rotary Club, so people were designing homes by themselves. So it's no big deal that really need an architect every time. I mean, especially when people like Aparna ji, how she said, can we squat and work in the fields? So there are lot more such skills people have when they come from such humble backgrounds. They can think for the need. They can understand what resources we have and how much we can do and how efficiently we can design them around our need. So yeah, there back at Hunashala in Bhuj, Gujarat, I was realizing that, okay, as an architect, you don't have to carry the ego and only design and tell this is how it should be. You can also co-participate, can also work together. So again, the sense of community is what eventually you realize that they are trying to get back into the play. Even in such low times when people have lost homes. So in Bhuj, you had a huge earthquake, and that's how they started. So they lost homes, and then so that's how it went. And the later on, back in the college, I went to a village, to a village in Bihar, a very remote village. A friend of mine had his family there. They have been zamindars, so they had a very elaborate setting, a farm and everything. But then just to check around resources, I realized there are these amazing bamboo grooves in the backyard of the village. I was surprised that, okay, bamboo could be in large numbers. Yeah, it grows in some parts of the country very well. Uh, but I was surprised that they were so huge, and it really felt like some sort of a sacred groove that I entered into. And the overwhelming feeling lasted long, and I was so happy to be there. Although it was but for an academic reason, I realized that the villages have so much. The abundance is right there. It's a rapid urbanization along, owing, then converting into migration is what is causing all this distress. But otherwise, the villages do have such abundance. They have always have been, and they're the more resilient places you can think of, the more resilient people you have in them, right? And and the next thing that I ended up having another overwhelmed experience was while I was in Haridwar right after the college. A friend of mine called me to design something, and I was there. And as I saw, there were beautiful artisans all around, and they were still intact. They were still in a place like Haridwar. You had a potter busy making all these beautiful earthen lamps. So the village economy has already been designed to a great resilience. And I realized that okay, as in when you actually go to a village, you're not stranded, and you're not looking for a unique solution, but you're only you would only be guided by the beautiful existing systems in the community already, and artisans, the great diversity they have. And uh, and as I said, they have the great knowledge of adapting to changes. So it's only you who would learn when, if you say, any of you would go back to a village to start a great length of unlearning to begin with, and then it converts to amazing learnings on the go. Uh, then it so happens that I was greatly moved by what people at Hunashala were doing, social architecture, participatory designing, all of that. But then it took me a while later when I met my guru, Biju Bhaskar ji, is based out of Tiruvannamalai. They run an organization called Tunnel. So you all can check their work. It's all on the online. And I was amazed when I saw these pictures. Like as a college kid, I was browsing through this website, looking for inspiration online. I didn't realize that everything is on ground. So, but I did get a cue of okay, this is a family, Mr. Biju Bhaskar ji, my Guruji, who's an architect. And I see him barefooted and with bare hands, he was building his own home. These are the first images I would see. And I was surprised, okay, the architects are not only wearing shoes and moving around in, swanky cars or something, they also work this way. While I had a glimpse of it at Hunashala, this was totally new, like touching the materials themselves barehanded and building with them. It was amazing, and that really moved me. And then as I immediately went to him, जैसे I think हिंदी में कहते चरणों में गिर जाना. तो बिल्कुल I went there, and so it was a great deal of learning from there on. Like I was actually put in situations in my very first project. I was left with the artisans, local artisans. I didn't know Tamil. Like Aparna ji said, I was also new to it, and only when I was working along with them, I could slowly learn the language. And it was I get goosebumps as I say this, but those amazing artisans, tatas, when you say tata like dada log, wo sab, they were the first teachers in making, say, natural building. To make, I mean, one of the dadas who he was 90 years old, and then he would use his tip of fingers to build amazing earthen walls. So I was I was seeing miracles in front of me, and the reality hit me hard for sure, knowing that to balance a lot of these things, to actually push someone, or to propose a natural building in a village back again, it's a great challenge, because in the cities we have been building with concrete, and villages sadly are falling into the trap of, okay, it seems that the city people are intelligent, they're well more educated, so what they're doing is right. So there's been a great abandonment of their own knowledge, of the beautiful homes. When I say beautiful homes, they are everything. They actually work with the local climate. I'm sure some of you would have already traveled around to see some of these beautiful slate roof buildings, Katkuni style buildings, even earthen structures, some of the earthen structures. So it's basically like eating organic food. You're living in a, it's sad to say, use these terms, we rather use shelter or natural building. But yeah, it's like an organic building that is already, and all of these solutions have been, withstanding a lot of the natural calamities that are happening in the Himalayas too. So there's a great deal of learning from the past, and the knowledge is vast and diverse. Every place has its own way of building. They look at the resources, they look into what is more abundant around them, and they harvest that rather than only looking for a single material. For example, if they only go after one kind of a tree to build everything there, you know how it would turn out to be. But they have this diverse mixed use of wood, the timber they get, and they use it accordingly. They don't use a single material everywhere like how cement has become today. So, and you're seeing it all around how the cement structures built with no expertise again. I would not blame the material or totally, although it is environmentally, harsh, but it's also people don't know how to build with them, right? Cement is a very modern material, and how you treat it and how do you mix it? What sort of someone's asking something. Okay. Uh, Yeah. So, anyways, going back to the villages and their great knowledge, uh, and this is partly what I do. I explore local natural materials. I'm based out of Telangana and work with local artisans. That's largely uh, yeah. So I've been doing that majorly. I'm still studying a lot of local buildings. Like अब जैसे लोग कहते हैं, you're a student always when you're in search of such knowledge. It's always you take it, you don't feel heavy. So it's beautiful all along your journey. And talking about a bit of the other systems, like I've been also introduced to permaculture, and because I've been dealing with natural materials and buildings, I've been around ecosystems, how they work, and where we can harvest certain things, like say bamboo. When do I harvest it? So the locals tell that you need to harvest it uh, when it's new moon or around that, because the moon pulls out a great deal of there's a pull of starch along the bamboo around when you have the moon in full. So it's when it recedes, you don't have the starch in the bamboo, and then when you harvest it, you have a material that doesn't have food for insects. So that's just simple traditional knowledge out there. And it's the same when you go to Uttarakhand. If you ask someone about bamboo, they would say the same. So India that way is so united and so nice. Uh, so going back to it, I also had a privilege of visiting some of the tribes around here, and looking at their lifestyle, the way they farm, right? The biodiversity that they live in, their knowledge. They have such beautiful native names. I would be happy if somebody tells me if there's a bird, a local bird that has a funny name to it, based on how, say, it calls its mates, or based on how it looks, you know. So it was amazing how the language there is so simple. Anybody would get it. So children understand it so easily. So their language holds so much of knowledge, and it's yet simple. Huh? So among that, I had the privilege last year in the summers, and it was 45-degree here. I am sure you all can't even imagine such temperatures sitting in your place. But yeah, it was 45-degree. It was by the river Godavari. Well, we say it River Godavari, they say Godavari Amma, Mother Godavari, like Mother Ganga, like any river in India would be called as equated to our mothers, even in a higher figure. So it's so beautiful that they were accepting. It's not beautiful in that sense, but it's the beautiful minds that they don't see anything that the nature does to them as as something wrong. When they had floods recently, they only said that Mother Godavari had come a little further to meet us and went back, receded. So you see the language they speak, they have an empathy with nature, right? So that was so amazing, so touching to see that these people hold such respect to nature, right? I mean, today, as we see it in the cities, there are many rivers flowing into the city. We have Yamuna there, we have a Musi here in Hyderabad. And what do we do with the waters? We are pretty much in part of the system, and there's hardly any concern that way. So the great learnings, like Aparnaji has rightly pointed, like everything comes from the village. What we are today, what remotely when you say we are human, and we are Indians, or we are related to a vernacular language. It all comes from the villages, and when you go further back, it comes from the tribes who have got this knowledge out beautifully. So this village, very briefly, I'll tell you, they have a practice of shifting farming, where they farm for an year on a land and then move to a second land, and they also don't plow, right? Plowing is something, say they, because they've been uh, deep in the forest, they didn't know those tools, but they, to this day, well, they have the access to the market, they still don't plow. They only chop down major branches and only farm in between the trees. So when they shift to another land the next year, there's great opportunity for the forest to revive back to its glory. So it's the least it's a to say it's a least hurtful way of farming. And again, we are I went through all of I mean, I've traveled quite some parts of India, but I didn't see such an amazing practice of respecting what's existing and not disturbing it, to that extent that they don't plow. So that is something. And what we had done when we stayed with them, we realized that they were growing some backyard gardens for their fruits and vegetables. I realized that they have lost a lot of diversity owing to the local markets. Like Aparnaji has rightly pointed, when there's a demand in the market, or demand in the community that we need to eat this, there certain species survives further and longer. So we realize that they sadly don't have that diversity today, owing to the development around the forest. And so that way, we were glad to share some of our native seeds from the plains. They live in the hills, so we shared some of the seeds, and that's a beautiful bond we could make along with them. So we've been document such rich knowledge systems, and we are able to share it through experiential workshops to many people. Rightly pointing at how the systems have survived for centuries, and it's only now that we are realizing that okay, there's certain disturbance, and we are sadly sometimes abandoning such systems because they no longer look relevant. But I will tell you, these are systems that have survived centuries, as I just said. And if we can look deep into them, we'll find great solutions. And especially to you all, future humans of India, you'll find great resources among these people. And I would say, while you can, please do travel a bit to around and meet. Say you have your grandmothers, that generation holds a great, I mean, beautiful secrets and solutions of nature, and how to work along rather than imposing on nature. And last but not the least, I had the privilege of traveling a bit in the Himalayas, and I eat I for the first time I saw they eat ragi rotis, as if, I mean, in a city like Hyderabad, I would when someone makes something like that, it's exotic. Oh, a ragi roti, it's millet, made of millet and all of that. But that's a simple staple food, and I was amazed at how. And there's a silvata, silvata is like a grinding thing. You make. So it's such a everything everything around these systems are very aesthetically done. You see the roti, you see the way they make it. It's all in a rhythm, like how you would probably relate more with farming. People sing along while they are doing it together. It helps in collective energy. And uh, and uh, as I already mentioned, there's a great deal of architecture diversity in whole of Himalayas. And uh, and uh, I have to tell you, there's a beautiful system in the Himalayas called One Panchayat, where each village has a large expanse of forest to take care of. So there are people actually moving around in the nights, ringing bells to warn if there are any loggers. Logging is also one of the issues in here. So they take care of the forest so much. And I was amazed. They also have a temple with Bhudevi, as they call it, Mother Earth, as they worship there. They celebrate a lot of things there. So Himalayas, I think, like how people all over India would say, are sacred. It is sacred because these humans have been conserving such systems. Uh, you have uh, you have water springs that are sacred for people. They walk barefoot to fetch water. They don't wear chappal. So all these tiny small nuances are solutions to some of the major problems we are dealing with. you know there's a great deal of learning that we could make. And talking about how to actually help them, while also helping the nature ecology, keeping everything holistically in mind. There's great opportunity of conscious tourism, responsible tourism. I would say it's also conscious tourism. It's a great way of preserving the culture, stopping people from migrating to the plains for job opportunities, helping them to grow their native seeds back, helping the soils to hold these crops so that there's less erosion. You see a lot of erosion because of the water. It's all because the grounds are bare. The grounds are not bare, the soil held in place. So it's only when humans would stay there and do such systems. The Himalayas got used to these people. She owns them as their own. And so it's a great responsibility of ours. And especially all of you live so in Himalayas, close to Himalayas, that to see that the population there stays there. And if possible, there's a great opportunity for even all of you to also move to villages and start such small entrepreneurships. And that's also a great way to see it. All the therapy that we take in the cities, all this medicine, or you buy these organic food at a cost. You could also do it yourself, also help others to you can also be part of that supply system rather than just setting up the system. So I would say, I hope there are also, I hope to see some future farmers in here. Aparnaji has already set a great inspiration there. And everything, and natural building is also, I can always stay in touch with all of you if you need any guidance on that front. And we have some amazing people working in Dehradun and around there already. So yeah, that's from me as an introduction and a bit of suggestions. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, Dheeraj sir and Aparna ma'am. Actually, I don't speak usually in the online sessions. This is student council based program, but you people insisted. That was so eye opening, so nice of you people that you made me feel. You made me speak now, and really inspiring. We'll look forward for more sessions like this. And a big thanks to Saurabh sir, and so sorry, Bharti ma'am, you were waiting since long. Sukhman, please take over, introduce Bharti ma'am so that we can continue with that. Thank you so much.
Sure, we'll be starting. All right, and yeah, thank you very much, sir, for that enlightening and grounded talk. The way you spoke about reaching out to people and drawing wisdom from Himalayan villages and their diversity gave us a glimpse into a perspective that is both real and deeply thoughtful. So, yeah, finally, we are delighted to invite Ms. Bharti Chaturvedi, founder and director of the Chintan Environmental Research and Action Group, an organization committed to addressing issues of urban poverty, sustainable livelihoods, and environmental justice. She has worked extensively on urban governance, the informal sector, and environmental health, while also writing widely on these issues for leading national publications. Ma'am will be guiding us into a deeper understanding of environmental justice. So the floor is all yours, ma'am. We are really eager to hear from
Thank you, everyone. And a big thanks to Saurabh for reaching out and to Manjula for reaching out and including me. So, hi, everyone. I just thought I thought I would speak on environmental justice, and that's what, Manjula and I decided. So, I thought I have 10 minutes, I believe. So, I will use those. um, Basically, I think environmental justice is something that you and I are literally seeing every single day. And actually, we're seeing the lack of environmental justice. So, environmental justice, if you really say what is it, it is a whole bunch of things in the Indian context. One is that the the fact that there are several people, several crore people who are bearing the brunt of development, which are for a few people. There's a whole bunch of people who are bearing the brunt of our consumption, including waste, including air pollution. And there are a whole bunch of people who actually don't have the capacity, the resources, the social networks to look after them and to be able to protect themselves, or in fact, even to be able to fight back properly. So, when all of these things happen, then you say that environmental justice is not happening. For example, I think it's really, really terrible how we're seeing this crazy flooding. I'm not even going to talk of Punjab, which is unspeakable, but let me just say flooding anywhere impacts farmers, it impacts people in slums in cities, and virtually a lot of the floods. Of course, you can blame climate change, but climate change is holding a mirror to the kind of development that we have kind of rolled out both in our cities and in the mountains. So, if you think that it's okay to put a lift in Mata Vaishno Devi and take people up in a lift, then you have to blast the mountain. And when you blast that mountain, you do create a huge amount of instability, and landslides happen, and people are killed. And many of those people are just regular, humble people living in nearby villages. And incidentally, I know some of those families, and there they are caught out by landslides. So, just for a few people wanting an elevator, people have paid with their lives. And is that fair? That's not fair. Similarly, I think when you look at air pollution, the people who are the most impacted are outdoor workers. Who's an outdoor worker? Now, we know that in 131 cities in our country, they are what the National Clean Air Plan calls non attainment cities, which kind of means that they never meet the air pollution standards. Now, I'm not going to go in and discuss whether I agree with that or not, because I basically don't, because air pollution doesn't work city wise. It's not that, oh, Delhi's air is really bad, but Noida is really clean, or, Dehradun's air is really bad and Mussoorie is really clean, because air circulates, and you know that, I know that. And the area in which it circulates is called an airshed. And these are really huge areas of land, and their currents and their micro ecosystems. And so that pollution is everywhere. But
it's equally bad in Delhi, but nobody's really measuring it in a remote part of say Haryana. So in fact, on a day when Delhi is getting all kinds of facilities, there's holidays, there are schools which are saying put purifiers. On the same day, you will see that rural Jind is not very far away. Jind is not very far away from Delhi. It actually is significantly more polluted and nobody's talking about it. And why is it polluted? It's because people are so poor that they're having to burn, biomass, which is branches and so on, simply to eat and to cook. And they're breathing terrible air. And that school doesn't even have, it just has just the basics. And nobody's talking about how children there deserve to be saved from air pollution. It's not that their lives are more valuable than lives of children in Delhi. Everyone's life is equally valuable. But we're putting all our resources, all our debates, all our attention on Delhi. And that then creates a divide. Similarly, you could look at waste. And in waste, what happens is you have all these waste pickers and they're picking up all the waste. And we people are buying, we're saying, oh, we don't want to use plastic. So we're going and buying things in glass jars and so on. But we're not segregating our waste. And even when we segregate our waste, if a glass jar breaks, then we're still mixing all the waste and dumping it. So the person who is actually trying to clean and give you recycling services for free has to also endure deep cuts on their hands and feet, because you, the consumer who can afford to eat jam, which is something no waste picker can ever afford to buy for their children. They cannot, most waste pickers have not even tasted jam, is actually forced to bear a huge physical burden. So that is environmental injustice. And I think instead of only talking about what it is, let's talk about what we can do. So I'll start with waste. And I think it's not what we do individually, it's what we make our communities do, whether your community is a colony, whether it's a school, or whether it's an entire ward, or whether it's a village. And I think what we're seeing is a lot of people, what they feel, what they experience in the world of waste is a triple burden. Because, first of all, the fact that they pick waste is because they come from really marginal backgrounds. They've come from the village to the city. Increasingly, we're seeing that they're migrating because there's no water, because their land is not producing anything, because there's no water, because of extreme heat. Heat stress is something that is a huge climate crisis. So nothing is growing. It's been impossible to get anything out of their land. Many of them don't own land, but then they work on other people's land. But people, farming is not doing so well. There's not much work for laborers, so they're showing up here. And because they are anyway poor, anyway lower caste, anyway some of them are Dalits, so when they come here, they don't start wherever they please. They end up again starting with really low jobs. And one of those jobs is, in fact, picking trash. So when we look at what we should do, how we can help them, we should remember that not only are they getting polluted because of our trash, but they're also coming from a place where they have very little, where they have experienced historical marginalization, which means everybody has ill treated them, maybe because of caste, maybe because of many other reasons. And now that they're here, women in particular have to, there are no joint families. So women have to look after young kids, they have to cook for them. If the mother in law joins, or the father in law, the parent, then and they get sick, you have to look after it, after them again. And you have to go out and work, because nobody can live anymore on one income, particularly if you're poor, because cities are increasingly expensive. And the poor actually pay much more money for homes than we do, because their rental in a slum, if you look at it per square meter, it's several times more expensive than what you would pay for, your two-bedroom flat maybe. And so we really have to look at three things. One of them is that we have to make sure that we are inclusive of these people, that we are able to we stop. One of their biggest problems is that large private companies are coming in, speaking in fancy English and saying we'll handle all your waste, and that's a challenge because these guys are not able to compete. So maybe the school, maybe your colonies should step out, make the effort, say, who's the guy picking the trash? Can he become our formal waste manager? Can we find someone to train him? Obviously, people like us train such people. And can we then make him an entrepreneur who's going to earn safely, who's going to safeguard their health, and they have a steady job? And that would include being paid, that would include keeping the waste and being able to sell it, and that would include social security and safe work. So that's just one way to do this. Another thing I think is also about when we talk about air pollution. Now, if you look at the people cleaning your city, sweeping, the city in the morning when you wake up, you will find many women there as well, many young people there as well. And what happens with air pollution is that it enters, especially for women, your body, and a lot of that impacts your future children. And so it's very, very important that women are not given duties along main roads. In fact, if you move back, you can cut down your exposure by 30 to 40% if you move back from an arterial road. But we don't do that. So, as it is, somebody who's doing this job isn't really often they're from castes that have always worked with waste. And on top of that, their children are going to be born with whether their development problems or anything else because of that terrible job of working on a main road. And all the municipality has to do is to look at women under 50 and put them in safer jobs. And then you'll help the next generation not to be born with, heart problems, lung problems, arrested development, and so on and so forth. So my time is pretty much up. I think I've taken a minute extra, but I just want to leave you with the thought that when you see anyone at all providing a service, whether it's a street vendor, a sweeper, or a waste picker, or anybody else, try and understand what does it cost them to provide the service. How do they live? Do they live in a slum? How safe is that slum in floods, in heat? How safe is it anyway? Do they get clean water? And ask yourself three things. Number one, is this fair? Is this a good, do they really, they're saving us, they're running our cities, but is this really the quality of life they deserve while they're giving us a quality of life that we are enjoying? Number two, ask them what will make their lives better. Don't assume, don't listen to what I'm saying. Everybody knows what they want. Hear them. And the third thing is act on it, and don't just act on it individually. Bully other people, fight with other people, force other people to join you in making some kind of tangible long distance change, whether it's immediately or whether it's at the level of the municipal commissioner. But don't just sit back and wish things were better, make things better. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for highlighting the importance of justice and sustainability. This has shown us how equity must remain at the heart of every environmental decision. We really are grateful for the depth of knowledge you brought into today's session.
And the way you connected environmental justice with the realities of like waste and its impact on the poor was truly eye-opening. And your insights not only made us reflect, but also reminded us why conversations like these are so important. So yes, Nihi, let's move ahead.
So now we would like to welcome Mr. Saurabh Popri, Associate Professor at the School of Planning and Architecture, Bhopal. His research spans landscape, human ecology, urban issues, and aesthetics, always exploring how people and places co create meaning. He will be sharing his guidance and help us reflect on the theme of Himalayan ecology.
Hello. Hi, everyone, and thank you very much for joining the session today. Thank you very much for having me. We've just heard from three amazing teachers, and to all the teachers from Little Scholars, and to the three experts who've served as teachers to all of us here. A big shout out to all of you. Thank you very much, and I wish you all a very special year ahead and a very special Teachers' Day. Thank you. The session that I think that everything that needed to be said has already been said, and I don't really need to say very much, except that I'll try to frame, whatever I have learned from the speakers before me. Essentially, my message is very simple, and I think I'd like to take you through it. Essentially, as I see it, all around us, what we're focused on is economic opportunity. I think the government is very strongly focused on economic opportunity, and that economic opportunity takes as its sort of index, or takes as its measurable index, what is called GDP, gross domestic product. So the gross domestic product reflects the state of vitality, or the vigor that your economy has, and so basically it's seen as a measure of how healthy the economy is. And basically what it does is that it indicates that whether what is the value of the goods and services that are circulating in the economy. And I'll come to the question of Himalayan ecology in a bit, but I just want to contextualize our discussion today by saying that essentially what GDP growth indicates is whether needs and the supply of things and commodities and services is growing or not. And that's essentially what GDP growth is. But what GDP growth also does is that while these needs and the supply of the needs is growing, it's also consuming resources. And those resources are of many types. Those resources include mineral resources. They include, like coal or fossil fuel, or other kinds of resources like wood. Also resources like that are produced. Food resources. Food can be considered to be a resource, and so many things. But essentially, what that does is that while the resource use and the exploitation is increasing, it is also increasing in terms of the rate of extraction. So one is that the economy, the GDP growth, and the total number of products, the amount of products and services in the economy is growing, which is telling us that the resource use is increasing. On the other hand, the rate of resource use is also increasing. In fact, now last week's news is that experts are telling us that we have used in the last 5 years, in the last few years, we have used what the previous 75 years we had used. The amount of resources that were consumed in the last 75 years, we are now entering a new phase of acceleration. So this phase in history, we have to remember that this is unprecedented. That the sheer volume of production and consumption that is now taking place in the world is simply unprecedented. It has had no precedent in history, and that consumption is not just unprecedented, but it is also extracting a terrible cost on pretty much everything. Our oceans are being stripped of life. The climate is changing. There is a great concern. There are grave concerns about biodiversity loss across the planet. There is a strong trend towards the depletion of fresh water. At the same time, while we're using fresh water, we're also putting back, polluted water. We're not treating all the water that we use, and a lot of the, water that runs off, not only from cities as sewage, but also from factories and other dump sites, like the places that Chintan, Bharati's organization, works in, all of these are producing waste. They're producing waste as runoff, but also that waste is being produced from agriculture. So scientists are saying that in India we're adding about 440 million tons of nitrogen to the soil, to the water every year. This water is entering lakes, water bodies, rivers, and eventually the ocean. And wherever they enter, naturally they're altering the chemical cycle inside. So the thing is that on the one hand, we have the problem of intensification, the intensification of resource use. On the other hand, we have the depletion of resources because the rate of extraction is now pretty much unsustainable. And what it does is that the cycle of more and more exploitation or more consumption produces a situation, a scenario where some people, simply don't have the access to the resources they need to be able to live a safe, or a secure life. So now the world is increasingly being divided, or the society as we know it is increasingly, facing issues of equitable access. So not everybody has the water that they need, even for domestic consumption. So this is just an example, but there's a tremendous range of goods and services across which the same inequity plays out. Arti mentioned some of those forms of inequity earlier, and I'll go on to now that so that I've framed this idea that some people simply do not have what they need for a safe, dignified existence. And in this time, the intensification of agriculture, the intensification that's taking place around us in consumption, is producing four kinds of problems. The first of these problems is that it's producing waste. It's producing an enormous amount of waste which we don't know what to do with. They say that about 98% of all the waste that is being produced, all the plastic that's being produced, is going to landfill sites. A mere 2 or 3% is being treated, is being recycled. And that's tremendous. The second kind of problem that, this intensification, this process of intensification, resource use that I'm talking about, produces environmental degradation. We've covered this in the form of, soil pollution, water pollution, air pollution, and so on. So there's a large-scale degradation of the environment. The third kind of problem that this intensification produces is that it reduces the natural regenerative capacity of life systems to regenerate, to restore the resources. All nature has a process by which it restores resources. Nutrients enter the soil and they are recycled. They are recycled by microbes. They are recycled by plants, and those plants are then eaten by herbivores, and there's a whole food chain that goes around. The same thing happens with water. Dirty water enters a stream, but through the action of billions of microbes over time, over space, that water is then made pure. And then, through various processes, plants, microbial life, animals, all of that. And then the water, in a way, replenishes itself as precipitation. So the reduction in the capacity for nature to regenerate the resources is now incommensurate. It is not symmetric. It's not congruent. It is no longer keeping pace with our consumption of those resources. So this is the third kind of problem. And the fourth kind of problem, which is related to this, is that this is leading to large scale shifts in ecosystems and in entire ecosystems. So for instance, those ecosystems that were previously dense forests are now increasingly getting thinned out, and those ecosystems that were once an abundant agriculture, let's say in large parts of Punjab, etc., are now facing problems of aridity, which means that over time they will become less, they'll be less, not just less productive, but they will also start to resemble more desert-like conditions. So the the large-scale ecosystem shifts that are taking place across India and also in Uttarakhand, so to a lesser or larger extent, are also worrying. So, the question of how should we frame, how should we understand uh, environmental justice is also a question of how should we understand, our place in the scheme of things. So, the questions of justice, the questions of equity are linked to our notion of who we are. Are we here to consume everything that can be consumed at the expense of everything else? Or do other things, other beings, other people who are not yet born, do they also have rights to the resources? So I think that you will all agree with me when I say that our resources are not for our consumption alone. Our resources are not only meant for our own, not only to create wealth in one generation or two generations. The resources that we have must endure. They must go on into the next generation and the next generation and many generations thereafter, into all the generations that will come after us. They must. So, sustainable development, one of the definitions of sustainable development is that you don't consume the resources or you consume the resources at a rate at which they're replenishable. And and then other people who have thought about this, other thinkers, they have said that what about animals? What about plants? What about other beings? So now there are strong arguments for what is called the rights of nature. Rights of nature. If you search for a hashtag RON or hashtag rights of nature, you will find that there is a lot of literature now, a lot of people thinking and talking about that nature also has rights. If and the other life forms also have right to exist, and right to carry out. So we can't claim the forest, we can't claim all the wood in the forest, we can't claim all the coal in the earth, we can't claim all the water of the river for our own consumption. We must not consume it, because if we do, then we are prioritizing our own well-being over everything else. So the question of how to understand ecology and how to understand Himalayan ecology, I'll answer your question, but can I please finish? Thank you. So, so the question of how to understand Himalayan ecology is a question of how do we see ourselves vis-a-vis other beings and other and future generations. How do we see ourselves in nature? Do we see ourselves as Lord and Master, or do we see ourselves as stewards, or do we see ourselves as just another being that has the ability to enjoy gifts and also share gifts with others? So I think this is a key. This is a key understanding. Um, One of the important things that we do need, I think that our the current generation will need, there has been work on this and it will need to accelerate in the future, is the question of how to regenerate resources. So because we know that resources are depleting, whether it's soil, it's water, it's all kinds of life that we find in ecosystems. All of these can be seen as resources, or they can be seen as as a part of a larger picture that we have to make sure that the picture endures and the picture is a healthy picture. So one of the key questions in our time is that what is that regenerative principle, or how can we attune our resource consumption with the ability of the system to provide for those needs without compromising the rights of other people and other beings. So the four questions that I have, that we can all collectively think together on, are that the larger question is that whose needs are being served and whose needs are seen to be legitimate, like whose needs. So if the 50 one anecdote that came out recently is that the 50 richest people in the world consume in 1 hour what an ordinary person consumes during an entire lifetime. So in the course of 200 in the course of 24 hours, in 365 days, they would have consumed what several tens of thousands of people would have consumed in their lifetimes. So whose are legitimate? So can we so the question of environmental justice is that when we if our need is compromising the right of another person or community or being to exist safely, then clearly it's a there's a problem there. But that leads to a second question that you know are the is their claim for justice, is it tenable? So if for instance a farmer, if I'm building a dam and my dam is going to inundate, I'm taking over somebody else's land, their land will become infertile, or by my I'm making a power plant, but the smoke from the power plant goes and damages crops in my neighborhood, then perhaps they are entitled to some sort of compensation. But there are many kinds of impacts that are not seen easily, or that they affect the health of future generations. Like the example that Bharti gave was the impact of um, yeah. So the impact that one person or an individual or an organization is creating can actually impact future generations. So here is another fertile area that that participants can get into, you can inquire into. Your thoughts are very welcome. We're curious, and we are very happy to understand, to help understand, and to understand this together with you. Is that whether the claims for justice are tenable in terms of the existing laws? And the third question is that whether the claims for justice can be made by those whose rights are compromised. So it is not necessary that those whose rights have been compromised by human activity are there to press for justice in the court of law. For instance, if it is a few years back when SETU was studying the Finns Weaver, and the last remaining community, the last remaining population of Finns Weaver exists near Kashipur. And there is no other, we've already lost 25 species in India. 25 species have become extinct. And now those extinct species can't stand in a court of law and ask for justice because they're simply not there and nobody can argue for them. So the question is that can those whose rights have been compromised, are they able to, can their claim for justice also be entertained? Can they make a claim for justice, or is there a process by which their claim for justice can be entertained? Now, this is an interesting question. There has been some movement on this internationally. We in India have not made much progress on this, and I'm opening it up to the participants to take up from any one of these 3 or 4 questions that I've shared with you. I will end here, but if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer. I know that there are some questions in the chat box. I'll try and address them all. So the question that Anuj is asking is that what can we do with the plastic that has already been made? So my suggestion is that a lot of work has happened on the subject of legacy waste. These are called legacy waste, waste that is already lying in landfill sites. Chintan does a lot of work on waste. I'll encourage you to connect with Bharti and people in Chintan and also whom they recommend, because they would have it's not an easy answer. There is not one kind of plastic. There are many kinds of plastics. There are many kinds of problems that are associated with different forms of plastic. For instance, when you have a bag of wafers, it's not just plastic. It is 2 layers of plastic with a layer of aluminum of film inside, with a layer of metal inside. So it's got food waste. Now this is a different kind of problem this from a PET bottle that has sugar inside it, which will over time generate toxic leachate and will enter the ground. So, there are many kinds of plastics. The plastics that we use in agriculture, for mulching, are a completely different kind of plastic, and it also forms waste. It also forms microplastics. It also enters the food supply. It also enters our bodies. But we are still using. The government is also promoting plastic as mulch. There are a lot of companies that are producing plastic mulches. So the question is not easily addressed with a one size fits all answer. There are many kinds of plastic. There are many organizations that are working on plastic waste, on legacy waste. Bharti is an excellent resource to connect with on the question of legacy waste. I'll request you to please, stay with the question and then help, from this question, a very interesting thread of research can develop. We can't give you the answer right now, but if you go looking, I'm sure you will find very useful, very useful, very productive, lines of thought on this. I'll move on to the next question. How can rural mothers ensure clean drinking water for their children when resources are limited? So the first thing is that this comes back directly to the question of justice, because one is that if there is an upstream community, if I am upstream, let's say I am at Ramnagar and you are downstream of me, or I am at Kashipur, and then the Dera River flows downstream, then Kashipur must release clean water, because there are mothers downstream that need clean drinking water, and their source of water is the aquifer or the river. So the first point is that this is a claim for justice, that we must pollute somebody else's water. And the second important point is that if and there are efforts to ensure that water is cleaned before it enters the river streams, but there are also technologies that can help both at the at the treatment side of at the point of release, but also at the point at which it is being taken. So I think we need a lot more thought to be given to this very interesting question. I think Pranvi has asked a very, very interesting question. It has a dimension of justice. It also has a dimension of planning and technology. Both dimensions are important. You can't do without either. I'll request you to, maybe we can think about this. You can help. You can develop this question a little more. It's a very good question. Then Anuj has also asked, if we throw in water, it affects marine animals. If we burn it, so he's talking burn it, it pollutes air. Yes. So the best thing is actually not to produce it at all. And in fact, 2 weeks back, there were negotiations that were taking place to ban the production of new plastic, or to stop, and to limit the production of plastics. Unfortunately, India and among other countries opposed the ban on plastics. So plastics are going to be with us, and they will continue to be a problem for us in the coming generation. We know that it is a problem, but there are also now technologies, including development in biotechnology, that help to address that have some promise for addressing the plastic pollution problems. But it is certainly not a problem that can be addressed in one large, sweeping stroke. It needs a lot of thought, because there are many kinds of plastics. They all degrade differently. They carry other problems, like I mentioned, that if you throw a bottle of Coke, it has sugar, and sugar will turn toxic after some time. So I'll move on to another question that I think Pankaj sir has asked. He's asking that, could you share an example of any government policy which could help us learn of how it affects the common man in a good or bad way? And yes, I'm not sure if this question has been answered. Um, Yeah. Okay. I will go on. Are there any other questions that are addressed towards me? I can't tell.
No, sir, no, sir. This is the last question, I believe.
Seems
All
like
right.
all the
All right.
insights
Right.
have
Thank
been
you.
very well. Yeah. So thank you for those thoughtful reflections. And they also remind us that justice and sustainability cannot be separated and they must be pursued hand in hand. And those insights on the rate of resource use, the pace of extraction, ecosystems and forests losing productivity, even edging towards deserts, give us a very real sense of what is at stake. And also talking about microplastics being the smallest in size and also being one of the biggest issues out there. It was an extreme delight to hear your depth of your expertise and clarity. So let's move towards the end with that. Yeah.
Thank you so much to all the resource persons, Aparna ma'am, Dheeraj sir, Bharti ma'am, and Saurabh sir. It was truly great hearing you, and it was so inspiring knowing your journey and the work you have done. And a very message that we get from your words is that it's no, we if we want change, we don't have to think about it. We actually have to work about it. Our one step can bring a great change. So, as we bring this session to a close, let us remind ourselves that progress in sustainability lies not just in grand gestures, but in consistent, thoughtful actions. May today's insight help us, each of us, refine our approaches and bring greater depth to the work ahead. In the coming weeks, further workshops will continue to guide participants in shaping their submissions, culminating in the final event on 4th October 2025 at Little Scholars Kashipur.
Yeah. So we thank our resource persons for their time and wisdom, our school leadership for their continued support. Uh, am I audible?
Yeah, you are.
Oh.
Yes.
So, and all participating schools for their active involvement. Let this journey of SETU 2025 not merely be about preparing presentations, but about preparing ourselves as individuals and as communities to act with greater awareness and responsibility. Further updates of the event will be shared with you via the WhatsApp group. And that's it for today. Thank you so much.
Just a minute, just a minute. I just wanted to ask, Saurav sir, we really want more sessions with Aparna ma'am, Bharti ma'am, and Dheeraj sir as well. You, we need your sessions more often now. Too much into it now.
Thank you very
Yeah.
much. I'm sure that Aparna ma'am will will be very happy, but you'll have to ask her.
Yeah.
Thank
All right. Really great day, everybody. All right.
thank you very much.
Thank you,
Thank you.
everybody. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining.